Happy Tuesday. So jumping on here today to talk about one of the first steps we can take to making positive movement changes in our bodies, and that would be awareness. Just not doing certain movements. The first thing we have to learn is how to be more aware of some of the habitual movements that we might make daily that puts our bodies out of alignment. I can think about today. I was working with a client, and we were talking about, because she's like, how did I get here? Why can't I fix it like right away? And we didn't get to where we are over time. If we start thinking, we most of the time don't start trying to make changes until we feel pain or until we have injury or surgeries. But if we can start becoming more aware to maybe head that off prior to, we'll be in a lot better situation. But I know for the one I was speaking with today, it's probably not until the last couple of years that all of these things really spoke to her. And as we go back, she's a golfer, so she likes to golf. So if you think about just golfing, most people are always on the same side, and there's this repetitive movement, right? Of always twisting and sending some power right into this hip. And then let's couple that with, maybe we like to stand into a hip, and it's probably going to be the same hip. How many of us actually stand, with our feet perfectly aligned and our legs perfectly aligned and our hips perfect aligned? Probably not many of us. I know for me, before I started becoming more aware, this was a common stance for me. Shifting everything into my right side, locking out my right knee, so that puts a lot of pressure on my right knee. Now that now I know this, and I can tell it because I've taught my body to be aware, so I can feel, oh yeah, I'm putting some pressure into that knee, I need to change. Or I can feel that weight going into my hip, I need to change the way I'm standing. But sometimes we don't become aware of those things until they become a body issue. And I can totally tell, this is the side I've always stood into. This is the side I step forward on all the time. So that's a habitual movement pattern. Just if we step forward, every time we step forward, if we step forward on the same foot. So those are just things that we can become aware of. But I know this is now what I term my special side. So it's the one that, I have to do a little bit more work on, I have to be a lot more aware of. Other habitual things that we might start being aware of is where things are in our workstation. Are we always turning to the same side in our workstation? Is everything that we use in the same area, and we're always moving to that area? Are we always lifting and trying to grab things with the same hand? So it's just some things to start kind of bringing a little bit more awareness to. So first is the awareness of, what we're doing that can create imbalances. I brought my chair out too, because sitting, we can do all kinds of crazy things to our body. How many of us actually sit in our seat with both hips equally weighted into the chair, sitting up nice and tall? Probably not many of us. Most of us like to sit with a leg crossed over. So, just kind of feel that. Go from a regular sitting position and see how it feels. Both sit bones would be equally weighted in obviously a perfect world. And then cross your leg and notice what happens. We're going to have less weight on one. So for me, I've got my right leg crossed, because if I was crossing my legs, I'm always crossing the same one typically, instead of crisscross. If we switch sides, it doesn't feel feel quite comfortable, or it doesn't feel quite right. And there's a reason for that, because we've habitually always went to the other side, so it's not going to feel comfortable. So if we sit with this leg crossed, not only are we now not equally weighted, but we're probably going to sink over into that right hip. So now we're going to create all kinds of imbalance and some shortening in our backs. So that's some of the things that we can become, that's an awareness. We can start looking at how we sit, or we sit in our easy chair, as I call it, where we're all slumped over and we're putting all of this pressure into our low back. Our low backs, if you look at them, they're meant to have a slight curve. So if we go into our easy chair or our recliner, we're putting all of this compression right there into our low back area, and spilling everything forward, so there's no way our cores can work. So those are some things to kind of be mindful of. Also is your sitting posture. So first is the awareness of the habitual movement. And then the next thing is, how does it feel when we do that habitual movement? How does it feel in our body, so that we start to say, okay, this is what doing something that's not good for my body feels. And then we can correct that, and then say, this is what it feels like when I'm in a good position. So that our bodies begin to learn what is good for us, what's not good for us, so that they can start to kind of auto-correct, is what I like to call it. So that, that's still awareness, but that's awareness that we've created, and now we can start creating change just through awareness, right? And then, what are some of so those are the first things I would say to kind of think about. I could go on and on about all the different things that we could be aware about in our daily movements, but that should just kind of already get the wheels rolling to where you can start going, what are some things that I do that's always to one side, or that's maybe not in a very good body position for me, and how does that feel in my body? And then start eliciting change. So how are some of the ways I like to start changing some of those? Most of those habitual patterns over time have created scar tissuing and tensioning in our bodies. So I like to start with release work, so that we can begin, relaxing some of those tight, tense areas, so that then we can move from a more efficient space. Because if we still have all that tension in there, the bones aren't going to really want to move in the right position. And also trying to create changes in movement by changing our connective tissue and our muscle, versus trying to adjust our bone, because it's the connective tissue and muscle that puts the bone where it is. So we have to start that change first. And so some of my favorite tools are, massage balls. If I think just right ahead what I have going on that I'm doing that helps this is, I have like a deep release and nurture workshop coming up. And in that we're using, we're going to be doing lots of muscle release techniques, along with some nervous system work, so that helps bring that awareness. And we'll be, integrating a nice little warm, I call it an aroma sensory ball, but we can warm this guy up, which really makes our tissue a lot happier and a lot more willing to mobilize for us. And we can also use, essential oils to just help our minds calm. And when our minds can calm, or our minds can be a little bit more focused, we can start to notice these things in our body. We can start to notice when we're doing maybe things that aren't too great for us. But I would say, start with some of those, start working with some of those. If you want to learn more, would love to have you join us this Saturday in the Deep Release and Nurture. I'll pop that down in the comments. And then today I had rosemary oil with me, which is one of my favorites for brain cognition. And I'll even link you to a live that I did on rosemary oil a while back that kind of really goes into that and how it can help us. Because when our minds are more alert, we can be a lot more alert and aware of what we're doing in our bodies. Or if we're carrying, if we're tense and stressed, that's going to create tension in our bodies also. And so through aromatics, a lot of times we're able to relax and release some of that and just be more aware. So I guess the key today is being more aware and things that we can be more aware of to start making positive changes in our bodies so that we can start diminishing some of the pain that we're starting to feel and create a lot more mobility. And I know most of my clients that I talk with, their main goals is mobility and flexibility and to be strong and balanced to prevent falling. So if those are some of the things that you're interested in, I would love to hear from you. But if there's something that you really want to hear more about, pop that in there. Have a wonderful day. It is beautiful today in the North Carolina mountains. So I'm going to enjoy some time outside and take a little walk later because it's nice, breezy, and warm. So have a blessed evening and talk to you next time. Bye-bye.